Alright, so I had another, of course, Caro Kann game that I'd like to show you guys. I told you in my last video that I'd like to try and play a bit more of the classic Caro Kann with the bishop on f5. So I got a chance to do that today. Advanced variations, what I always like to see here. I tried a6 and I tried my queen b6 just to see if I can get the knight move out to f3 here. He didn't oblige, and he actually blocked that with the pawn here on h6, and so I could see that was no longer an option. So I thought, hey, why not just play bishop f5 here, and then I can close up. So there's the knight move, and so I've got some options here. I could try and play like bishop e4 so I can get back into the system, that I know. I've played this position over the board before, but it was always my turn. I've lost a tempo here playing it this way, and so sorry, I didn't want to try that out. So I just played e6, close up the center. Bishop d2 is passive here, but it's okay. I would say bishop e3 would have been a little bit better. Castling would have been much better. I mean, that's his best move here. He doesn't know where he wants these pieces yet, but he knows he wants to castle. So a little bit of a weak move. Okay. Also, this hangs, b2 pawn. Now this is good in this case because of my bishop on f5 here. Oftentimes when you take this pawn, it doesn't give you a ton of advantage, even if you have an extra pawn, because then white gets to start developing while I'm running away with my queen. You can see I've got 3 minor pieces undeveloped. Neither rook is developed. I'm not castled. He's got 3 pieces, quasi-developed. So snatching the pawn isn't always the best move. In this case, though, with the bishop on f5, you can see that his pawn sitting here on c2 now has 2 attackers against it. He played this to protect the rook, and I neglected to notice that pawn was hanging. I'm not used to seeing this bishop on f5 in this situation. Usually I snatch that pawn and then zip my king out. So I just played queen to b6 here. Obviously better would have been bishop takes c2, which forces the queen trade. And I imagine he recaptured with his rook. So now I've scooped 2 pawns off to shimmy my bishop on out of here. He can kind of bully me a little bit, just try to cause some trouble, but yeah, it's a great game for black. Instead, I played queen to b6. So again, yielding a bit of my advantage. This game's pretty even. I'm up a pawn, but he's got more space in the center. He's much better developed. I'm going to have to take some time developing while he can, get his rooks in order and all that stuff. So pretty even game. I like black from here, Okay, he played rook b1. c7's a great square for your queen in the Caro Kann, so no shame in moving that back. You can see my b7 pawn is a little weak, but that's alright. He's not going to be able to put enough pressure on it to get a real attack. Okay, my opponent castled here. Another option would have been to play queen h4 to kind of bully this bishop around. I could play it up to e4. I don't know if I like that. I certainly don't want to mess up my pawn chain here. Yeah, I guess e4 is where this belongs. If he wants to, we can trade here, and then we can castle, or he can play g3, and I don't know. I don't like this a whole lot. So knight h4 would have been a good move. Instead, I'm sorry, after he, queen c7, he just castled, which is fine. And I played knight to d7, developing another piece, putting another attack out on e5. Again, even chances on this board. I'll take the black pieces. Okay, knight g5. I want to point out something about this move, because I think this was a key move in the game. Try and figure out what this move threatens, because I sat for a second and tried to figure it out and realized that this move doesn't threaten anything. There's nothing that move can attack that isn't well protected. The best he can do with this, even if he brings another piece into the attack, is just kind of wasted tempo. Like even if he brings his bishop back here, so he can have 2 attacks here on f7, I can develop my knight. I can undevelop it and expose another defense there. My bishop could always come back. There's really nothing he can do here. So this move really doesn't threaten anything. You know, g6 of course would be an option if he brought his bishop out, and then his bishop looks silly, he has to run back. His knight still looks silly, there's nothing to do. So I don't have to respond to this threat. c5 is the best move here. I can just completely ignore what his knight's doing because he's not doing anything. So I should just go along with my plan. c5. Now he ought to play knight f3 to defend that pawn. So you can see he just wasted 2 tempo. Or tempi, or tempi, or I don't know how you're supposed to say it. Tempos will work just fine for me. If he doesn't bring his knight back there, if you can come up with a better move, you're welcome to. You know, maybe bishop to e6. I don't have to take here. I mean, this queenside's mine. b5 is good. If he wants to play d takes, I've got bishop takes. I'm getting developed for free. This is now hanging, and he won't be able to defend it. Yeah, this is bad. Bad for white. So anyways, I don't have to respond to this move here. I ended up just playing h6, and he bounced it back, and then I developed. So you can see c5 would have been a better option for me there. This all worked out fine anyway, so he still wasted those 2 temposies. Alright, finally a manly move with his bishop. He should have played it there in the first place instead of wasting a tempo. I'm just picking up lots of time on this guy. He thinks he's putting it opposite my queen on this diagonal. There's real no threat of that. It doesn't ever materialize into anything. So I played knight g6, threatening that bishop, and now he bounces it back. That's a pretty passive square for his bishop. It seems like a long diagonal, but again, there's no way to formulate a plan like that, especially with his pawns blocking. Now I'm going to be able to scoop these pawns. If you see my videos, you know that's what I like to do, is hit d4 and e5. This is, again, a real passive move. I could have played h5 and started working down that board, h5, h4, to really put some pressure on his king side. I imagine c5 is probably, well, I don't know. Because here I run into tactics. So, I don't know. Anyways, I played passive. Where are we at? Bishop to e7 here. I want a castle. And now I'm happy to trade bishops here. I don't know why he wanted to trade. This is not my best bishop. That's his good one. But, alright. So we'll trade and I can castle, and there's even less of a threat on my king side. My king side is safe. You can see his queen side's ripped open. My center's stronger. Not by much, but we're good. Okay, more undeveloping moves. I'm not really sure what he's doing, just kind of back around there. I think he doesn't know how to play with a plan. I'm just guessing. A lot of people don't know what their plan is when they're playing chess. They know checkmate's the plan, they know material's the plan, but they don't know how to go about making a strategy. One thing I think you should do when you are choosing your openings is come up with, or try and understand, I guess, the strategies inherent to those positions, because you shouldn't just be moving your pieces around or always looking for a 2-move tactic, because a lot of the times you're not going to run into people who will hang pieces or give up an easy 2-move tactic. And so rather than doing that, you need to have a strategy for where you want your pieces to be pointed. I definitely recommend Jeremy Silman's books in that regard. What's the one called? I think it's, oh, I forget, but he's got a couple of great books. I'll try and leave it in the comment when I remember what it is. It's the blue one. Is it the Amateur Way or something like that? Anyways, I don't want to waste all our time with this. So here we go. Now I have a plan with my knight. I want to get it up here to c4, protected by this pawn. It can't be pushed out of that square ever. Good spot for my knight to be. He should be looking for similar squares. He should have been trying to find a way to get his knight wedged into c4 here. You know, maybe if instead he had played here. I'm not sure if there's any tactics or anything. I guess b5. He can come in this way if he wants. Yeah, this isn't too great for him. That's alright. Anyways, knight e2. I got a plan. He's just retreating all of his knights. I still have no idea what his plan was here. So now c5 makes a lot of sense. If he doesn't take, I can play c4. I can play knight c4. I got lots of options. My opponent went ahead and took here, and that allowed the bishop to take. And now you can see this pawn is sitting here hanging. I got 2 attacks on it. But the problem is when I take it with my knight's now pinned to my queen. I have to retreat my knight back here. So I've got to untangle a little bit. So here we go. He played his knight up here. I just played knight to d7, so I'd have 2 attacks on this, and that way my knight was protected when I move my queen, and then that breaks the pin. I could have just taken. Knight takes e5. I'm worried about that later. There's really nothing he can do. I mean, you know, now I can play this here, so I get the pawn for free first. But that's alright. So knight d7. He played c4. Lots of good options here. D takes c4 would have been interesting. Queen takes c4. I can take the knight. Trade queens here. This is good for black. I chose just to go ahead and take the pawn at this point instead of d takes c. And I was watching, and I knew that he had to go to either c3 or e3 with his queen because this knight's hanging. He has to defend it. So my opponent blundered. He played queen to b3 here, trying to pile up and make some kind of attack happen. Hung the piece. This ends the game. I mean, there's really not much he can do at this point. But I do want to highlight one last thing. My opponent started initiating a series of trades. You can see. Like, look at all this trading he did when he was already down material. Like, I want you to think about this. When you're down material, you need to avoid trades if at all possible, and try and pin pieces and attack the pin piece and look for tactics. Don't just trade down, because look at how much material he's short. He's short at this point a rook and 2 minor pieces because of all those trades. When he was here, yeah, he was down a piece and 2 pawns, but he didn't have to make it worse. You know, either resign or at least look to gain material back instead of just trading it down. So anyways, yeah, the rest of the game doesn't matter. I mean, we trade, all that, yada yada, and I think he resigns in here. Yeah, he resigned here. So anyways, I hope you liked it. It's a little bit more of a classical Caro Kann with that bishop on f5, and I'll keep trying to play that a little bit more often rather than my a6 and queen b6 shenanigans, and see how much I like it. So I'll keep posting videos, and hopefully you guys keep watching. Thanks a lot, guys.